Well, hey there and good morning. I am Arthur Morris, Birds is Art, and one thing's for sure, I can teach you how to make better pictures of birds, whether it be on an instructional photo tour, on an in the field session, or on the blog every other day. There's so much you need to learn, and the problem is everybody thinks they know everything, but their pictures are not very good, despite the fact that so many folks have great equipment. Speaking of gear, if you enjoy the blog and you enjoy these videos, you can support my work by emailing and using my B&H link or my Bedford's affiliate link to purchase your new gear, especially the cameras. Everything here is done, not everything, almost all these images in today's slide program are created with Sony, but some go back to Canon and a few with Nikon. I've used all three systems. So feel free to email for advice. As far as the Sony A1 and the A1 Mark II, or the A1 II as I call it, we have guides for both of those cameras, so you'll be set up and ready to roll in about 3 minutes. Anyhow, I should have mentioned that we're not going to see very many horizontals. As a matter of fact, this is the last one you'll see. So the two images that begin the show are reddish egrets, a dark mauve, and a white mauve, and you see right off the bat that herons and egrets, being tall birds, lend themselves to vertical format. That's our topic today, how to create pleasing images in a vertical format. So first off, turning your camera to vertical is a pain. It's harder to get your hand on the shutter button, whether you use a vertical grip like many do. I do not. I'm saving the weight. And one little trick that folks don't understand is that, you can take your grip on the camera and turn it counterclockwise to get the vertical. Or for some of us, it's easier to turn it clockwise and put the shutter button on the bottom. And this great blue heron was photographed at Circle Bar B, where Bob Eastman and I have spent a couple of mornings in the last week. And you might ask why I'm putting this bird looking on the left side of the frame, because I wanted to get the end of the perch on the lower right. So we're starting off looking at whole bird verticals, where we fit the bird in the frame. As a general rule, here the bird is a little bit left of center, so giving him room to look right. And there's a little bit more room above the head than below the feet. Cattle egret, same exact thing here. Eye is close to centered, but still he has more room in front than behind, a little bit more room above than below. Sometimes with verticals, we'll even obscure the lower half of the body with vegetation or something else, or a beach. We'll see one of those, I believe. So these are very pleasing. What you want to do is make sure to give room below so it doesn't appear that you're cutting off the virtual feet. Here's another one. This is an old one from Sebastian, where the bird is behind the berm of the beach. And another one with the feet obscured works nicely. Brown pelican from San Diego. Now sometimes, it's nice to have the pure backgrounds with nothing behind the bird. But sometimes you're going to have some horizontal lines in the background. So what I did here was try and place the bird's head right in the center of the vegetation. I find it attractive. Some people don't. That's fine. Here's another one with layers where I zoomed out. This was at Hidden Lagoon at Fort DeSoto Park. Who knows what this looks like? And this is a little smaller in the frame, again, because I zoomed out to include some mangroves and the beach. And another one I just put on the blog recently. I love the soft light and I love the layers. Some people complain that the blue-green border is cutting the neck, and that's true. But there are so many good things about it, a perfect head angle, soft light, that I like it. Here's another one with an intersecting horizontal line, the breaking wave, but the light and everything else, the raised foot, is so powerful that I'm fine with it. Notice when the bird is looking back to its right, our left, I shift the lens to the right so the bird has lots of room still to look into the frame. And a tighter vertical, beautiful 2-year-old, 2-year-old brown pelican in San Diego, where I'm headed in about 9 days. Again, a soft light, and it's a whole bird vertical, little more room above than below. Same deal, I call this one chocolate covered cherry. Sort of 2 to 3 years old, not in adult plumage, but he's got the red bill pouch. Notice the perfect head angle, and here there's a little bit more room below the feet than above the head, because I found the sandstone rock that he's on fairly attractive, even with all the whitewash. Another vertical pelican. Unfortunately, this perch fell down. I actually was looking at it when a pelican landed on it and crashed it down, but it had been good. One of the places you could shoot horizontals and verticals. When the bird's looking right dead center at you, sometimes dead center is the best composition with a vertical. And notice, again, more room above than below. Same deal, even tighter, an osprey down by the lake at Indian Lake Estates. It's a juvenile, the beautiful feather edgings. And another baby from Indian Lake Estates, a bald eagle on a nice pine perch. Now again here, a little smaller in the frame, I've pointed the lens down a bit because the tree was pretty nice and I didn't want to get any sky in the image. And this is the first image of the perch that you'll see. This is actually the perch 2. It's the second one I put up down by the lake near my home with my friend Ralph, a neighbor. And it's a beauty, and it's attracted lots of birds over the years and given me lots of great chances. This is the scissors preening pose. They can work great as verticals with tall wading birds, or even head and shoulders, or even head portraits of scissors preening. We'll see some more of that coming. Now, a skimmer is the last bird you'd think of as a vertical. It's a long, low, horizontal bird, but with the 2x teleconverter and an incredible foggy sunrise, this bird went to alert posture, and vertical was the best way to handle it. Same here with a black-bellied whistling duck. Reminds me of a snow goose, but it's not. Baby cranes in March and April. Amazing stuff, a beautiful background of purple flowers, or foreground of purple flowers. And they grow quickly. And again, the same thing, a little bit more room above than below, a little more room in front than behind. Sandhill crane colt. And this is a little younger one. And I went vertical and got him on a stretch, a little off sun angle, but the sun is soft, so it works fine. And I love the wing stretch and the new feathers growing in on that bird's right wing. An adult crane tossing a little bit of grass, same stuff. Back in the frame, more room above than below. Wood stork from Brandon at the Brandon Rookery. When you throw in a little behavior, the bird calling or yawning, it gives it a little extra punch. In San Diego, the holy grail are the head throws, difficult to predict, hard to capture well. This one I love. This is close to the one that was honored on film in the BBC a zillion years ago. And on rare occasion, you can get a mirror-like reflection. Great egret, young one. Tighter with the raised foot. This is when the Hurricane Idalia-related flamingos were at Fort DeSoto Park. And when you're doing people, vertical is the way to go for the most part. We're tall, like the herons and egrets. And this is Anita North with her 400-2.8 at DeSoto on a foggy morning. Rarely with verticals you get a chance to do two birds and have a nice juxtaposition. These royal tern chicks are at Huguenot Memorial Park in Jacksonville. I'll be there this late June, early July. If you're interested, get in touch. Another one with two birds, a vertical, where managed to get both in focus, stopped down only a little bit, but they're almost on the same plane. More behavior, displaying adult great egret in breeding plumage. This one again at the Brandon Rookery. Two flamingos from Bonaire, courting. Obviously need to be in a vertical frame. And one at Fort DeSoto. And this is almost like an Audubon folio composition where it wouldn't work without the bird bending over and feeding, filter feeding on little shrimp and stuff. Fort DeSoto. Great blue heron threat display against another bird out of frame. So when you can add behavior to your verticals, the images are even stronger. This one with a 402.8 handheld. And a little family pose coming out of the marsh. An adult crane and two little chicks about a week old. And the Mother's Day, one of the two Mother's Day chicks. This one is cropped from a horizontal with the old A7R4. One of my favorite images of all time. And from Circle Bar B, a heron just getting an armored catfish down its throat. More recently, on the hill, just north of the parking circle, Bob Eastman and I have been going down to do sunset. A moment later, the vertical original dancing shot. Little smaller in the frame, but very, very cute, a baby burrowing owl. Same bit, staring down the lens barrel. I'm fine with the bird in the dead center with a little more room above than below. I'm headed to Homer. We're sold out this year. If you'd like to go in 26, let me know because I just might not make a reservation. And another crop from a horizontal, a baby piping plover at Nickerson Beach. Vertical frames, the great egret's legs framing the two chicks with focus on the top chick that was nicely sort of squawking or yawning or begging for food. And sometimes we go smaller in the frame to include more habitat. In this case, a big, beautiful storm cloud, surely with the 70 to 200. Upper right thirds composition. You don't use the rule of thirds a lot, but here it worked perfectly with the attractive perch and an adult little blue heron. And here, pointing the lens down for this black vulture, so we include some of the hanging moss, and notice the perfect head angle. And here, obviously, one of my favorite perches in all of Homer. We visit it every year. We pray for snow. Very attractive perch with some lichens. And an adult bald eagle calling. He was a long way off, so small in the frame. But again, this one is right on the rule of thirds spots, the subject. And back visiting the perch 2, going vertical to get a few reeds in the frame. And another one. And these next two frames show the greatness of mirrorless, where you can be using center tracking expand spot, put it on the bird's eye, move the bird to the left of the frame, and when he looks back the other way, it tracks the eye and you just shift the lens. And this is from the car with the big beanbag, the blub, and when you're doing that, regular blog readers know you must turn off DMF, direct manual focus, to avoid throwing off focus accuracy. And another one on the perch 2, early morning light, lots of reeds, and a great blue heron. And from my Jamaica Bay trip, a tiny in the frame, greater yellow leg, probably lesser, I think it's a lesser yellow legs, with blooming salt marsh fleabane. And a skinny vertical crop from Circle Bar B on the Alligator Alley Trail, which is now closed, unfortunately. And that on the right is the trunk of a bald cypress. And another small in the frame, rule of thirds. I believe that's yucca with the male Anna's hummingbird on top. Then as you start getting closer and you want to do verticals, I call them as far back as the original The Art of Bird Photography, I call them front end verticals, where you get lots of extra detail and you make sure to include both legs. And in this case, a little bait fish for the chicks, again from Huguenot Memorial Park. Front end vertical. This bird walked out right in front of me at Bosque, probably on my last visit. No way to go. He never faced me, so we clipped the tail. But we didn't clip the tail, we cut it. So I'm fine with this one. Greater Roadrunner. Front end snail kite with snail. In the Galapagos on my last trip, which will probably be my last trip. Galapagos hawk. Front end vertical, sort of facing a bit. And going to San Diego where we'll be doing the ducks. And if you have a fixed focal length lens and the birds get close, I'll be calling out, go to vertical when he's close and cut him in half. That is a mottled duck. Mottled duck, Florida mallard. A wood stork with a southern whiting on the roof of a structure at Sebastian Inlet. Snowy egret, a little bit clipped on the back, just what I wanted, on Battery Bigelow at Fort DeSoto. And a silly image that I've always loved is taken in a fish market in the Galapagos. A 2-year-old brown pelican. I just love the way the elements come together. And notice how carefully I've put the bill tip against a clean portion of the bird's left webbed foot. Sometimes we're going to clip vertical takeoff shots, often of bald eagles, both of these. Oh, I don't know if I think he was taken off. And we've been to Lake Morton twice in Lakeland to check on the white pelicans. They haven't been there, but working with the 600 and a 1.4 lends themselves to these vertical head portraits. Birds with long necks, it works great. And another one, and we mentioned scissors preening. And I love the backgrounds. We've been twice and there have been no white pelicans this season. They should be there soon. Tighter head throw in San Diego. Notice the trick is to get the whole thing in the frame. And the problem with this is that as the bird, at this given focal length, as the bird begins the head throw, it's a horizontal, and then it's a vertical, and then it's a horizontal, and it's really impossible to switch that quickly. And an abstract underside of the head throw, vertical. And then the head and shoulders portraits. These are like, if you don't get this shot in San Diego on an instructional photo tour, you get a full refund. And I love the different plumages, this full breeding plumage, this pre-breeding, I call them white necks. This one a little pre-breeding, he's getting his chocolate brown crown. They come in black. I call those carpet necks. And here's a non-breeding adult from from Sebastian, about a month ago. Notice the perfect head angle and the careful framing. Here I'm set up at vertical, and the birds sometimes will shake their heads and their bills. You see the feathers flying. Trick is to press the button and use a fast shutter speed. You can even make an interesting photo when nobody else would press the shutter button by photographing the back of the bird's head and neck. This one I killed myself by clipping. Looks like he's trying to blow a bazooka bubble. And one of my all-time favorites, brown pelican with the crest raised. This is with Canon gear a zillion years ago. And actually, probably one of the last times I used flash. Scissors preening. Back to vertical head and shoulders portraits. Cranes are easy. This one in soft light on the beach in early morning. And just a nice, interesting head turn, head posture as it looks up at a vulture flying by, an adult. And calling. And notice, get close to the bird and get beautiful backgrounds. And here's my rule, which if you read the blog, you're well aware of it. Putting it in practice is another thing. This is just this regular head and shoulders portrait of a sandhill crane. It starts flapping Autofocus grabs the eye. This is the Sony A1, and I just keep pushing the button, and I get one attractive frame out of the series. So when unexpected action happens, push the shutter button. Don't try to change anything. Beautiful backlight on a head, shoulders, and body portrait of a great egret, Indian Lake Estates. And Fort DeSoto against the sun is just lower right, doing strong backlight at 10 a.m. on a partly sunny day. Fort DeSoto is a sunrise silhouette, head and shoulders portrait. And two from Indian Lake Estates at 1200 millimeters from the car on the blub. I love the look down portrait here and a more standard portrait. And I love the purple feathers on the bird's neck. Same bird, a few seconds apart. Vertical head portraits for the tame wood storks at Sebastian. This one with Steve and Elizabeth Shore, very recent. The bird opens his bill, bingo. Spoonbills at DeSoto. That vertical preening shot is powerful, and so is a plain old portrait. 1200 millimeters from the car, black-bellied whistling duck last year, May and June, was amazing. And a favorite from Gator Land with a great egret sleeping. And just with the eye open, just love the image design with the eye at the upper right rule of thirds. And my patented binocular vision shot where you get underneath a heron, shoot up at it, and verticals generally work best. This is a young great blue heron, but I've done it with great egrets and snowy egrets as well. And just your typical vertical head portrait for a black vulture. He had his head stretched up, so I went to vertical and include all the cobblestones on its neck, the beautiful gray cobblestones. San Diego displaying Brandt's cormorant. These tight headshots vertical require lots of care and amazing autofocus. The same general principles work for flowers. Forget the name of this one. This is thanks to my neighbor Ralph. And notice the diagonal coming in from the right. Flipped around here, another plant whose name I don't remember. And sometimes dead centered works for a vertical flower shot because that's where the blossom was. And I wanted to include the two buds or the spent flowers. The one on the bottom is a spent flower. Vertical, a spider, beautiful background, 300 millimeter lens. And a small in the frame vertical, rule of thirds with the flower in the lower left third, and that is Royal Tropical Water Lily. And I believe it's a native species. And upper left thirds for a dew-covered spider web as a vertical. On to flight photography. It's important to remember that most vertical flight shots as presented are from horizontal originals, as was this one and most of the others. This is from a horizontal, an osprey. So it's all to do with the banking pose. They're turning in flight. The spread tail is a plus here. And in Homer, we sometimes get to shoot them with a 70 to 200 vertical originals by turning the camera on end when you see the birds are banking right in front of you. And there's another one that's a vertical original, the headless flight shot. And back to cropped horizontals, a sandwich turn in soft light. That was on the same morning as the photograph of Anita North was created. And I shoot some of these as vertical originals. I believe this is from a horizontal, spoonbills at Stickmarsh. I'll be there this year for In the Field. I have openings for the last week in March. Get in touch if you're interested. The orchestra conductor pose as a vertical. And a pleasing blur orchestra conductor pose as a vertical. And this is from a horizontal, but I just cropped it to include some of the dune. This was actually from the North Jetty at Sebastian, which is now closed. And a vertical doinky-looking black vulture coming to a roadkill cafe. Again, cropped from a horizontal. Same here, skimmer, Nickerson Beach, early morning. Probably another vertical original with a 70 to 200 and a second one. These are both definitely vertical originals. I might have lied on the first two. And sometimes, depending on the way the birds are flying and the background and foreground, I'll shoot 600 on a tripod and try for vertical flight. I clipped lots of wings, but I like this one. And with the handheld 300 at Nickerson Beach, an American oyster catcher coming at me, cropped to a vertical. And from Grimsey Island, Iceland, cropped to a vertical. Very powerful. Sandwich turn with a fish from Jacksonville, Huguenot Memorial Park. And a very recent one, rare for me, shooting flight at 1200 millimeters, a winter Caspian tern from Sebastian. I knew I nailed it in the field. Even rarer are verticals with two birds in the frame, and this is cropped from a horizontal original. And the magnificent raw files of the Sony Alpha 1 and now the Alpha 1 Mark II, 51 megapixels, astounding autofocus. If you buy your new camera using one of my two links, you get all the settings and the guides for free. Email if you want to find out what I'm talking about. And after Bob and I got back from Sebastian Inlet, we went down to the perch at the lake the first evening, I think on November 25th, and we had a beautiful great egret take off from the perch, and we haven't had a bird at sunset on that perch since then. But we made it pay, and this is from a vertical original. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the program. If you stayed this long, have a Happy New Year. If you left early, have a Happy New Year. And most important, subscribe to the blog. Free lessons every day. Love you much. Have a great 2025.